How's it going there, guys? James here from Butler Farms. Out here at the shop working on a little project that I've been trying to figure out for some time. Excuse me if you hear thunder behind me. It's rumbling, and you can see it's dark back there, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. That happens just about every afternoon. I'm convinced where I live here, watching the radar, I can literally watch a storm cross the Mississippi-Alabama state line and cover all the area where I am, and when it gets right outside where we live here, it literally splits in two and goes around us. Never seen anything like it, but it does do that. I've seen it for years. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. I'm going to talk to you about a little project that I'm doing for those of you that have fruit trees and things like that and you want to protect them. You know, I'll walk you out here to one of my crabapple trees. Y'all have seen in the past how I try to protect them. We have a big issue with deer here, obviously. Now, for me, sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's an issue. Obviously, we do a lot of hunting here. A lot of our red meat comes from deer, and so I'm not totally against deer. I just kind of wish they'd stay in their lane, to be honest with you. But here is what I have around all of my fruit trees. This is one of my crabapple trees that I've shown you before, and this is reinforcement for concrete. When you're pouring concrete, that's what you put down to pour the concrete on top of. You know, just part of that process. And so this is what I've been using for years. Now the problem with that is, first of all, it's ugly, and most of my fruit trees are up near the road anyway, and I'm not really a person that really cares what people think about how I look and things like that, but I do want to kind of keep it clean. The second thing is that they are so hard to move and so hard to take on and off, to get in there and weed, and to get in there and weed eat and things like that, that I just don't do it. And so weeds grow all up in it. It's a big mess. It looks horrible. I do reach through there and snatch up some of the weeds sometimes, but you know, that gets old too. And then in the winter, when it's time for me to put more of my compost and mulch around it, I have to take it down, and plus it's scarring up my trees. As you saw, those are 4-foot sections of that concrete reinforcement, and as my trees have grown up, they've also grown out, so the limbs are touching that metal, and every time we have a storm, every time we have a wind, it just rubs back and forth. It rubs places on my limbs. So it's time for a change. Well, obviously the next step would be to buy some tree guards. Now the only reason that I have the cages to begin with is because of the deer around here. Obviously we've got these little bucks that come up in here. I find where they've been in the holler every time I cut grass. You find their piles out there, and where they've eaten stuff that's come through the fence on the garden and that kind of thing, and that's okay. But you know, these little bucks get these horns on them, and they go to rubbing their horns on my trees, and I find that around the edges of the woods and stuff like that too. And if I took those guards down, I can promise you they would absolutely kill my fruit trees. They would rake them completely bald, and that would be the end of them. And I've put too much time and effort into those. I've waited too many years for them to establish and start producing fruit, and I'm not willing to let them have it. So buying tree guards would be the next logical step, but we're homesteaders. I mean, we try not to buy things if at all possible. And I looked up online just a few minutes ago, before I started this video. You can find different tree guards made out of different things. I found some plastic ones. You do get 50 of them for $175. I think not. That's, you know, about over $3 a piece. There was another set that you could get 20 of them for $99, so that's $5 a piece. And then it gets even worse. You can find some of these that are like plastic mesh. It's kind of like this plastic fencing looking stuff. 4 foot tall. You can get 5 of them for $32. You can get 3 foot tall ones, 5 of those for $33. And then you can even buy, I saw some on there that were like 2 foot tall, and it basically looks like field line for a septic tank. Those were $7 a piece. Well, you know, that doesn't sound too horrible. Right now I've only got 6 trees that I need to protect. But first of all, I can tell you that plastic mesh stuff is not worth anything. I don't know what real use that plastic mesh stuff has. When it's brand new out of the pack, if you pull on it too hard, you pop the loops on it. And after staying out there for about a year, I can promise you they're going to break. The things that look like field line for septic tanks, there's only one color you can get of them, and it's stark white. Well, I don't want that out there on the road. And the first ones I told you about, those big bundles, you get 50 of them for $175. Well, that sounds pretty good, but they're solid. There's no airflow. There's nothing. It's just a solid piece of plastic. And again, I'm not real big on plastic. I don't want it around my plants. It dry rots, it breaks. When I do go around it, you know, get some sun on it and stuff like that, and I go around it with the weed eater or whatever the case may be, and it splinters it's just a mess. And then you get into some of these high-end tree guards that you find, and they're literally $10 to $15 a piece. I'm just not willing to do that. I'm a little bit more industrious than that. I can kind of figure some things out. So I'm going to show you what I am going to try this year. One of the other things that I found, let me set this little notepad down that I wrote those prices down on. One of the things that I found with every single one of them is some of the plastic ones just snap together. Well, that's not going to last. In this Alabama heat and this Alabama sun, eventually the little snaps are going to break and it's not going to stay together. The mesh ones were actually held together by plastic zip ties. Well, you and I know what happens to plastic zip ties when they get out in the sun. Well, there you go. You got the same problem again next year. So one thing that I can put out there that is very unnoticeable from the road, because it doesn't draw a lot of attention, and it's going to last, and it can take a weed eater, is hardware cloth, right? So I went to my big box store and bought a 10-foot roll of hardware cloth. It is 36 inches tall, which is about what my trees need right now. Like a 2-foot tree guard does me absolutely no good, because a deer that's going to rub its horns are going to be up above 2 feet anyway. And then you get into these 5-footers. Well, I've got branches at less than 5 feet because those are young trees. They're not above that yet. So 3 feet is about what I need. And this is 1/2-inch hardware cloth. Let me get you turned around here. It actually sounds like we might get a little rain blowing in here. I hope so. All right, so this is 1/2-inch hardware cloth. As you can see, it is 3 feet tall. And what I did is I cut it 16 inches, all right? So, you know, if you don't want to take a tape measure and do it, you just count off 32 of these little squares, and you take your side cutters and you cut it. Now, one thing that I did do is leave the little brads on the end. Now, you're going to bleed. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, when you're dealing with hardware cloth, every time I've ever used it, you're going to bleed. You say, well, wear gloves. Yeah, you're going to bleed even when you're wearing gloves, because this stuff rolls up on you and pokes you in the forearms and everything else. But it's durable. Like I said, I've used it in other applications. I've hit it with weed eaters and things like that, and it doesn't really have an effect. So what's going to end up happening is, and of course I'll have to get somebody here to help me do this, is I will take these. Now, first of all, I'm going to totally redo around my fruit trees this year. I'm tired of the weeds and things like that. And so what I've done is I've got some weed cloth over here. Don't mind my junky boat that I've got here. This is a full roll, a full 4-foot roll of weed cloth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into squares. I'll split it. I'll put it around my trees to keep the weeds out. All right. Then on top of that, I will put my mulch and my compost, then my mulch, and that should take care of the weeds. Now I'm not going to put it all the way up against the trunk. I know some of you are going to say, hey, don't put it up against. I know that. You don't ever want to put your mulch right up against the tree. Obviously it causes some issues. I'm going to leave enough space in my hole that I cut for my tree to put my guard. Okay, so I'll have to have somebody help me as I close this guard around the tree. All right, you can see when you close it up that it's going to give me about a 6-inch round circle. Well, a lot of the ones I was looking at online are only about a 3 or 4 inch. So this is good for years. No matter how big that tree gets, you know, it's going to be fine. It's got room to grow. It's going to have airflow. All right. Small animals won't be able to get through this. This is the same hardware cloth that people put around chicken coops and things like that to keep not only snakes but also things like raccoons out of it. They can't, you know, chicken wire is useless against something like a raccoon, but this hardware cloth they can't get through. Now, I will use initially, when I first put it together, I am going to zip tie it together until I can get it where I want it. I can adjust it. And then I've got this this wire here. It's stiff, but it's not too bad. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave it in and out and tie that off, and then cut those zip ties loose, and then it's there. That wire won't rot, it's not going to break, and then it'll be there. Now you say, well, how do you keep it from falling over on your trees? How are you going to keep it standing upright? All right, so I showed you the weed fabric over there, and years ago when I bought that, and I never have gotten it put in the garden, I bought by accident a huge box of the weed fabric clips here. All right, so as you can see, these will go very easily through those holes, and then I can bring it up, I can turn it and push it down, and guys, that's going to lock it in. I'm going to put about 3 per cage. I would say that's about 6 to 7 inches that's going to be in the ground, and if I anchor it down on about 3 different sides, it's not going anywhere. Okay, and you know, if we have deer that come up and try their luck with it, yeah, I'm gonna have to readjust it. I'll have to put my clips back in, but at the same time, it's, you know, my thought is that it's going to you know, frustrate them enough for them to go on somewhere and go rub them the neighbors' trees that don't produce any fruit. So that's my thought. That's my little project that I'm doing. I usually do stuff like that in the winter, but I don't know, I just with the garden not producing like it was supposed to this year, I just went ahead and did it this year, and I'm just not willing to pay a bunch of money for a bunch of plastic and have to keep replacing it. Plus, I don't want plastic up here if I can help it. I know that it's going to fall all to pieces and be a mess. So, you know, I think that roll cost me about $16, $17 at Lowe's. It was a 10-foot roll, so I was able to get all my cages done, cutting them at 16 inches. I got all my cages done for all my trees, and I had some left over. So when I plant some new fruit trees this year, I've got enough to make at least 2 more just out of that one roll. So I'll end up getting 8 of those out of it. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. I know I've already made the 6, and I've got enough that I know that I can at least get 2 more out of it. So maybe possibly more. I haven't actually measured it. So it just takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time, a little bit of blood, because that did happen. And it happens every time I mess with that stuff, like I said. But it's more of a permanent fix. And you know, when you're trying to grow food for yourself, you're trying to save money every way that you can. You know, you don't want the food that you're growing to end up being significantly more than what you could go buy organic produce somewhere else. I want my own organic produce, but I don't want to have to take out a loan to do it. So just finding little quick fixes like that. We'll see how it works when I actually redo my fruit trees this year. This late winter, when I get ready to redo them, I'll make another video and show you what the final product looks like. But you know, if you've got fruit trees around and you've got animals that won't leave them alone, also one thing that I did also think about, we've got some dogs that come through every once in a while. I don't know who they belong to, but every once in a while we'll see them out here, and you know, male dogs will come by wanting to mark their territories. Well, with the cages that I have up, they can't mark their territories, and they won't be able to do it there either, because it's going to be far enough away from the tree that even if they try it, they're not going to, you know, get it, not going to actually hit my tree. So there's another win, but we'll see how it works. If it doesn't work, then we know, and we'll try something else. But I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to work. We're going to save some money. We're going to use something that's going to last for years and years and years. Can take a weed eater when I go around it, and I don't have plastics up here. But anyway, find you some projects around the house just like this to make life a little bit easier, make life a little bit cheaper, and to grow your own produce. It is all worth it, I can promise you. All right, I'm gonna get off of here and get back to it. Guys, continue to tell friends about us. We're continuing to grow. Like I said in one of my earlier videos, I got more videos coming. It's just a slow time of year, but they're coming. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Hit that thumbs up button at the end. It still helps. I still don't understand it, but it works. And until next time, we love you. God bless you. This is James from Butler Farms, and we'll be seeing you.